webinar, How to Maximize Networking at Conferences. This webinar is sponsored by the Emory Alumni Association and Alumni Career Services. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Sarah Rawls, Director of Alumni Career Services, and I am thrilled to be here today with Chi-Chi Okezie, who is a graduate of Oxford and Emory College. And sadly, the snow and ice in Atlanta did keep Chi-Chi and I from being together in the same room for this webinar, but thankfully we're still able to chat with you here today. And if you are also stuck at home because of the blizzard that's hitting the East Coast, then we hope you're staying warm, and hopefully this was a good use of your time at home. Just to remind you, we are recording today's webinar, so if you do for some reason have to leave, don't worry. This will be offered on the Alumni Career Services playlist that is within the Emory University YouTube channel. So if you didn't know that Emory University has a YouTube channel, they do, and we have over 80 career webinars housed on our career webinars playlist. So I'll be sending out a follow-up email with information there so you can check out past presentations. And you will, if you'd like to follow along with us, I have uploaded in the handout section Chi-Chi's PowerPoint presentation for today. We will be leaving plenty of time for questions, so thanks to those of you who in advance sent us questions, but also feel free to type in anything you're thinking about in the question area on the GoToWebinar control panel. So please do that as those questions arise so that we can maximize time at the end of the presentation. And a bit more about our presenter. Chi-Chi Okezie is an owner and producer of Simple Networking. She works with university students, companies, and organizations to learn how to polish their professional approach. You can visit the Simple Networking website. I've put that in the chat area to read online articles on networking, listen to interviews, or purchase books published by Chi-Chi. She offers seminars and workshops for identifying, developing, and enhancing networking abilities. And she has created a fantastic 4 series which outlines 12 specific networking methods. Each method has 4 strategic solutions for effective business or social outcomes. For example, networking follow-up can be solved by induct, inform, inquire, and invite. The simple networking model is creating opportunities, the new form of success. And many of you might be familiar with Chi-Chi because she is a big volunteer with Emory. She served on our Emory Alumni Board. She is right now the president of our Alumni Women of Emory group in Atlanta. They do a lot of activities, so be sure to check out their information or reach out to Chi-Chi about that if you'd like to learn more. And Chi-Chi has spoken at several career workshops and networking events on Emory's campus. So thank you for being here with us today and again sharing your advice with the Emory community. Chi-Chi, I'll now turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, and thank you all for coming on the webinar and registering. I'm really excited. This is going to be a great webinar, How to Maximize Networking at Conferences. And I wanted to start out by just having a goal. I know it's the beginning of the year. Everyone has, or some of us might have New Year's resolutions and things of that nature, but I definitely wanted to at least put out one goal for this webinar, and it's to make you effective and successful in your networking for conference strategies, whether you are an attendee, a speaker, a presenter, an exhibitor, or a sponsor. So for this webinar, we're going to focus on what your role or your position is when you're going to these conferences. And I know a lot of times when we talk about networking, things that come up, and also what I've seen in some of the pre-questions are, things about being an introvert or being an extrovert or being a natural networker. So, there's a lot of talk about that. There are a lot of myths and theories and things of that nature. But like I said, what I want to focus on today is what your role is when you're going to these conferences. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk about the networking process. So the networking process is going to be 3 parts that we'll talk about today. And number 1 is just being better prepared. Number 2, make the right connections. And number 3, grow your networks. So when I say be prepared, I don't want you to leave your networking up to just chance. I want you to be focused. I want you to have a purpose or a goal for going to the conference or conferences or meetings. And I want you to properly prepare. And preparing can mean a lot of different things that we're going to further discuss. But I just don't want you to go to these events and not be equipped with the right confidence, the right information in order to be successful. The next thing is to make the right connections. I feel like conferences are an excellent way to meet people, to network, to expand your horizons, as well as such a great touch point because you are meeting people face to face. And I know that there are conferences that are virtual, but I always still feel like when you see someone face to face, it just brings things more to life, of course, and the networking is a little bit easier. And last but not least, I want you to be able to grow your networks. So networking is not just about going to conferences or meetings or joining different groups, but it really is about building a network or a group of support in order to move or advance in your professional, academic, business, or social endeavors. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the next slide. Okay. And it's how to be better prepared for networking events, conferences, especially in regards to being an attendee. And I have the image for attendee here, as well as speaker, presenter, exhibitor, or sponsor. So here it's pretty much going to be the same for all three different groups or categories that we're talking about today. The first thing is define your aim. So what is your purpose for going to this conference or to this networking event or to this particular meeting? You have to have a reason or a purpose for why you want to go. What is it that you want to gain? Who is it that you want to meet? And how do you want to expand your networks? I think that once you figure out or define your aim, then that kind of leads to how to properly prepare. It leads to the people that you're looking to target and to meet, and also even the way that you should follow up. Okay. The next is you want to sync with the agenda. I think this is a really crucial piece to being better prepared for conferences, especially when you're networking, because a lot of times what I've noticed when I go to conferences as an attendee or even as a speaker and a presenter, a lot of organizations are starting to go green. So you may not necessarily get a physical handout, a brochure, or even a packet when you're going to conferences. A lot of times they'll ask you to download an app, or all of the information will just be electronic via email or social media of some sort. So in that case, you want to take some time and look over the agenda before you attend the event. And this is great in the type sense that you can pick out or kind of set your schedule. What type of workshops would you like to attend? You know, what type of events that are going on in or outside of the conference would you like to attend or be a part of? I think this is really important in the type sense that you're being focused and you're going to the right events. Even for me, my experiences with doing conferences and attending conferences, there's so many different things going on, so it's easy to get sidetracked. It's easy to kind of just trying to figure out what to do and how to maximize your time and your effort, of course. So being able to sit down, to read the agenda ahead of time, and to pick the different places or the different programs or workshops or activities that you want to attend first can be very, very helpful. The next piece is you want to prepare your marketing materials. So I believe that each segmented group, whether you're an attendee, a speaker, a presenter, or an exhibitor, you have some type of marketing materials. So I'll start with the attendees. So a marketing material for an attendee could be your business card. It could be your resume if it's a conference that relates to job fairs and things of that nature. It could also be just, your resume. It could be your business cards. It could be flyers if you're a business owner, or even just information if you're representing your company. In the case of a speaker or presenter, their marketing materials can also be their business cards as well as their resume or their company profile. It can also be different types of marketing materials for promotions, for books, for upcoming webinars, for upcoming projects, initiatives that are related to your business or your speaking endeavors. And then for exhibitors and sponsors, of course, it's the same thing, business cards, brochures, and other marketing materials. So you just want to make sure that you have enough marketing materials on you and that the information that's on the marketing materials are up to date and accurate, and that they are, in the sense of branding, that they're all branded properly and they all align. I don't know how else to say that. So yes, you want to make sure that your marketing materials and everything are on point. And last but not least, I think this is one of the most untapped resources when it comes to networking, as well as networking at conferences, is to connect with the organizer or the host. I feel like the organizer or the host of the event, and there could be more than one particular organizer, host, or volunteers, or people that take care of or are in charge of or facilitate the attendance, the registration, and things of that nature. But reaching out to them maybe a week or 2 weeks before the event can be extremely helpful, especially in the sense of kind of gauging what the audience will be like, how many people will be there, and then also asking the organizer or the host, letting them know what your purpose is for attending the event and how to better position yourself. Depending on the nature of the conference, some of these conferences have been done consecutively, every single year. Some of them could be brand new. But in any case, the organizer or the host will pretty much know how the conference is supposed to run and can give you some insight or some details on how to better position yourself and to be better prepared. So those are some of the suggestions that I have for preparing ahead of time for networking at conferences. Okay, so for the next slide, I want to talk specifically about making the right connections. And I'm going to break this piece down by the 3 different groups that I've identified in this webinar. And I'm going to start with the attendee. So for the attendee, I have a list of just different things that you can do while you're at the conference in order to maximize your networking efforts. Now, first and foremost, I really, really recommend that you have an elevator pitch. Now, I know that some people may not like elevator pitches. They think it's too salesy. They don't want to overmarket themselves, oversell themselves, or they think it's not natural or it's not genuine. Whatever you may think, you're allowed to think that way. I'm not going to judge. But I will say that in regards to having a pitch or a way to introduce yourself, just be able to say who you are, what you do, and how you add value in 30 seconds or less. Please just make sure that when you're talking to people, you're very clear, you're very concise, you're very direct, and that also there's no confusion as to what you do. Okay. The next thing is that you have to tell people the reason for why you're attending the event. I found this to be a very powerful way of not only connecting with people, but also finding commonalities, as well as being able to link up with the right people who can offer resources, offer introductions, and vice versa. So letting people know why you're attending the event can be extremely important and helps with dialogue and conversation and breaking the ice. So for an attendee, it could be, well, I'm attending this event because I want to learn more about XYZ, or because I want to be certified in this particular skill or ability for my industry, or, I'm attending here because my company has sponsored me, so I'm a representative. It can be a list of many different things, but just letting people know pretty much why you're there can help you in your networking endeavors. The other piece is just to have positive body language. And positive body language can mean many different things from a physical standpoint. Of course, you want to make sure that you're standing properly, that you are, paying attention, your face to whoever you're speaking to or within your group or whoever that you're connecting with, that you're listening, that you're paying attention, that you're making eye contact and just being present. You don't want to necessarily have your hands folded, maybe hands in your pocket, or just showing different signs of being sluggish or tired or not interested. Okay. The other thing is that you want to ask 3 engaging questions. This is another piece for creating engaging dialogue, being able to find commonalities, breaking the ice, if you will. And when I talk about 3 engaging questions, I'm really talking about questions that go a little bit beyond, well, why did you come here, and who do you want to see kind of things. I want you to think a little bit deeper, if you can, and be able to have open-ended questions so that when you ask whatever questions you decide to ask, the person that is responding back has to respond back to more than just yes or no. Okay. The other thing, and I've mentioned this before, is to be a good listener. And to me, that's a form of communication. Being able to listen to people, to find out what their interests are, to learn more about why they're attending the event, to learn about their background, to learn about even just their endeavors and their skills can be very useful, especially as you're building your network. Like I mentioned, these individuals that are support systems for your advancement. Okay? And the other thing is that you want to be able to connect at the event as well as on social media. And connecting could be, as I mentioned in the next bullet point, exchanging business cards, as well as having, apps for your LinkedIn, or if you use Facebook and Twitter for business and professional purposes, being able to connect with that person on site or during your conversation. That can be extremely helpful because a lot of times, you can run into people that have similar first names and last names, similar industries, and it might be difficult trying to find them in a search. But if you're able to connect with them right on the spot, then that definitely saves time and effort, of course. So these are some of my suggestions for making the right connections as an attendee. And like I said, having that elevator pitch is really important, whether you decide to do a formal elevator pitch or just being able to explain who you are, what you do, and how you add value in 30 seconds or less. The other thing that I also want to stress is the importance of just being a good listener, being able to hear, being able to kind of understand the different types of skills, the different types of resources that people may be able to offer, and vice versa. When you're speaking, make sure that, what you're saying is able to resonate with the other person. And then, as I mentioned before, being able to connect at the event and not necessarily waiting afterwards can definitely be a time saver. Okay, so as we move on to the next slide, I want to talk about how to make the right connections as a speaker or presenter. So this is going to be slightly different from when I was talking about how to make connections as an attendee. So as a speaker or presenter, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have a great, or at least a very, very good opening or introduction. A lot of people, how can I say this? They I wouldn't say they take this for granted, but this is another untapped resource. I feel that when you have a powerful, or at least a very engaging and, how do I say this? Very engaging, and it's like it's a really good opening introduction. It sets the platform for your presentation. It sets the expectations, and it kind of gauges your ability to present and to deliver. In that sense, you want to make sure that your opening or your introduction is just a short, brief bio. Of course, you want to be able to highlight some of your skills, abilities, awards, anything that can give you credibility and be able to show you or project you as a thought leader, as an expert in your field, and someone that has credibility. A lot of people take their introduction to kind of talk about their whole life story. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that at all. I think you should just keep it very simple and very basic. And if you want to highlight one or two exciting things that have happened in your life, but to really keep the opening and introduction definitely under 8 minutes. The next thing that some people fail to do, and one of the things that I mentioned in regards to the attendees and how they can properly make connections, is that you want to tell your audience the reason why you're presenting. It's a way to be transparent. It's a way to be genuine. You don't have to go fully overboard and say, well, I have to make money, I have to pay bills, nothing like that. But you definitely want to let them know your purpose for being at that event, what connects you to that organization, and even the message that you're going to be sending or delivering in that session or in those sessions. The other thing is that your stage is pretty much, or your presentation is going to be your avenue to network, your presentation as well. And I've done this a lot in the past when I've presented to different companies and institutions. With your presentation, after you've done your presentation, you want to go back and take some time and read it. Be able to pinpoint certain things that will resonate or that your audience finds value in. So in the next bullet point, I have for your presentation, you should be able to teach, to share, and engage. And the sharing piece, I think, is really important because a lot of times we want to hold back, at least for me sometimes. You don't want to give out all of your information. You want to save some so that you're able to reconnect, you're able to have another touch point. And I get that and I understand that, but there's a lot to be said when you're able to share resources, share information, and make things practical for your audience. And the other piece is to engage them. You don't just want to give out information and not be able to make it interesting and make it, like I said, practical, and be able to put it in a way to where it makes sense to your audience and something that they can use in real time. The other thing is we're going back to the positive body language, especially as a speaker or a presenter. You want to make sure that you are engaging with the audience, that you're showing that you are energetic, that you're excited about what you are talking about, and that, you don't want to look sluggish or tired and things of that nature. But the other thing that I've seen going to presentations and different types of workshops is that sometimes the presenter does not fully engage and interact with the audience. So one of the things that I suggest is to seek audience participation and feedback. So this can be anything from asking questions, getting a show of hands, or things of that nature, where you're getting some type of feedback to see kind of the direction as to where your presentation is going, and also to pique the interest. There have been times where, I've done a presentation and I realize, they may not necessarily be interested in this particular piece. Maybe let me find out what their interest is and work from there. And that's a great way of doing that, by getting audience participation and feedback to kind of gauge where their interest is and be able to flow with that. So in the case of making the right connections as a speaker, you definitely want to make sure that your opening or your introduction is on point. Please let your audience know why you're presenting. And in your presentation, do the best you can to teach, to share, to engage, and to really give them the right information that they need. And of course, having positive body language, being energetic, and focusing on your audience is very critical. And then last but not least, you want to make sure that your audience is alive and well and responding back to you, and you're gauging their interest. Okay? And then for the next slide, when it comes to making the right connections, I'm going to talk about it from the aspect of being an exhibitor or a sponsor. So in the case of being an exhibitor, whether you're behind a table, if you're sponsoring and you're like in a trade show or a conference setting of some sort, when people come up, or potential customers or clients come up to your table or to your booth or to your area, you want to make sure that you welcome them and acknowledge them and have an interest pitch. So I know before I talked about having an elevator pitch for the attendees, and then having a welcome and an introduction for the speaker or the presenter. And now for the exhibitor or the sponsor, I think that you should have an interest pitch. So an interest pitch is basically where you're asking or prospecting potential customers, clients, partners, or affiliates. And interest could be as it relates to your company, your products, your service, any type of information that you can offer to where they might be interested in. Interest pitches, I find, are very useful, not in the type sense of weeding out people, of course, but it kind of gauges the different levels of interest, of course, and then also the status or the form of the business relationship, whether you see this particular person or this particular organization as a customer, as a distributor, as a business partner, as an affiliate, whatever the case may be. Once again, in all situations, explain the reason for participating. Let them know why you are participating in the conference, the purpose of your presence, and what you want to get out of the experience. I think that's really critical. And then in the next bullet point, prospect with 3 questions. And these 3 questions, of course, can relate to the reason or the purpose for you being at this conference, at this particular trade show, or at this event. And with these questions, you want to make sure that they are targeted to the audience that you want to service or interact with. You need to make sure that it's very specific and that the response is, once again, not yes or no, but we'll be able to fulfill the purpose of the question. And the other thing is, you want to have fun. You want to make sure that you enjoy yourself. I know, like with conferences, they can range anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of days. So, having giveaways is always great, whether it's freebies, whether it's samples, whether it's coupons, whatever that may be. You just want to make sure that you are giving something away and it's something that is memorable, of course, with your contact information on there so that these prospects are able to reach back out. Okay. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk about how to grow your networks. So before, I had mentioned earlier that in the networking process, we want to be, number 1, better prepared. Number 2, we want to make the right connections. And number 3, we want to grow our networks. And I said that networking is not just about going to random events or even just a slew of conferences and having a checklist, but it really is about connecting with people, building relationships, and growing a viable network. So in this case, I have a grid that I created, and we're going to go through the grid really from left to right and then up, down, and to the, well, yes. We'll go through the grid, and we're going to start with the follow-up. A lot of times people have been networking in vain because they failed to follow up. They've done the being prepared, making the right connections, but they lack in the area of growing their networks. And part of that is to follow up, to start to build relationships. So first and foremost, you want to follow up in a timely manner. When I say timely manner, that can range, but definitely within 3 to 7 days. That's what I consider a timely manner. You definitely want to reach out to the person while the event is still fresh in both of your minds, and the person is more likely to remember you as opposed to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and a month. The other thing, once again, untapped resource, missed opportunity, is not following up with the organizer or the host after the conference or the event. Now, whether you are an attendee, whether you are a speaker or an exhibitor, I always recommend that you follow up with the host. Now, sometimes the host organization will follow up with an email or a survey, but you want to go that extra mile and you want to connect specifically with that organizer. And it can be anything from just giving your feedback on what you thought about the the event or the conference, different types of activities that you found to be useful or not useful, or even just following up in the sense of when is the next event or where is there something that's similar, keeping me on the email list so that I'm stay up to date with the different activities and the initiatives and events that are going on. The other thing is that you want to follow up with any promises made. So in regards to individuals that you speak to on one-on-one or in groups, if there's something that you promised, it could be an introduction to another person in your network. It could be, information that they find useful for their advancement. Make sure that you are able to keep that promise and follow up with them because it only shows your professionalism. It's a great way to brand yourself as an expert, especially depending on what information you're relaying to them. And also builds trust as well. The other thing is that you want to show credibility. Credibility is very important. A lot of times you're going to be meeting people that you don't know. So you're meeting them for the first time. And being able to show that you're credible, that you can be trusted, that you are reliable, are all action-based. And a follow-up is a great mechanism for that. And, of course, you want to follow up to build relationships. You want to follow up in order to learn more, to expand your networks, to gain resources, to gain opportunities, and just be able to expand and reach your networking, professional, academic, or business endeavors. Okay, so the next thing, more tips on how to follow up and to grow your networks is that you just want to be professional. No matter what you do, be professional. In regards to leaving messages, if you do use your phone and call people, make sure that your message is very clear, it's short and concise, especially when you're leaving your phone number. Make sure that you slow it down a bit and say each of the numbers so that the other person doesn't have to play, repeat. The other thing is in regards to emails, just making sure that when you send out an email, you do your own spell check. Spell check is good, but it's not always 100% accurate. And then just even the messaging, making sure that your requests are not unreasonable and just keeping, like I said, being professional. Other thing is to be specific. A lot of times I've heard, from colleagues and friends that they do respond back or they do follow up in a timely manner, and they are professional, but they're not specific in their message. So when you're reaching out to this particular person or this particular organization, just be specific as to whatever requests you may have. A lot of times, and I'll give an example, this is very common, when I meet people and they actually meet me at events and they respond back or they follow up, within a timely manner, within a week or so. And in the email message, it's very, very vague. It just says, it was very nice meeting you at this particular event. We have a lot of things in common. Let's stay in touch. And even though it's great that they were able to follow up, the message is not very specific and there is no call to action. A better, more effective message would be, first of all, saying which particular event we met or connected, something interesting that we shared in a conversation, whether it's an overlapping interest, passion, or a background that we may have growing up in the same city, or even, having the same course studies and or any type of extracurricular activity that we did in school. And the other thing is, what is the purpose for that email? I'm emailing you because I want to stay in contact with you. I'm emailing you because I have a question about X, Y, and Z. I'm emailing you because, I need extra networking tips. But just have a call to action and let the person know your reason for reaching out. And depending on the nature of the business relationship, this person could be someone that could be a potential customer or client for me. They could be a partner, someone that I partner with to do additional services and offer products. So also putting that in and finding ways to connect and to collaborate is also very useful. And then, just be available for business. I've run through this many times, networking, meeting people, and even if you don't have your own business, just from a professional standpoint, someone shouldn't have to email you 3 times, call you 3 times, and wait a long time to get your request, or via LinkedIn or Twitter or any other type of social media platform. Make yourself available, take time to go through your messages and respond back in a timely manner. And of course, last but not least, agree to follow up again. Agree to find a way to connect, especially if you are geographically close in physical location, or if you're not and you actually had to travel for this particular conference or this particular event, and you didn't make a connection with someone that lives out of town or even out of the country. There are lots of online and technical ways of connecting with people, of course, without having to be physically there. So definitely take advantage of that. And of course, my favorite when it comes to following up, and Sarah mentioned it in my bio or my introduction, is my Fantastic Four series. The Fantastic Four series was something that I created about 10 years ago, and I'm really excited about it because now there are 13 specific networking strategies or networking methods, and I create these strategies or these solutions for each of these methods. And so when it comes to following up, for networking following up, I have 4, and it's induct, inform, and inquire. And I like it because it's one word for each of the strategies, and it's kind of a play-on-play word. So they all start with IN, so it's easy to memorize. So in the case for induct, and when I say induct, I mean induct this individual into your networking circles. And basically what that is you can either send them out a request via LinkedIn or professional social media site. You don't necessarily have to tell them that you're inducting them into your exclusive networking circle, but just have them on your radar. And the key is that when you induct them, you give them a position or a title. I think this is really important because that kind of gauges the relationship or the expectancy of the business relationship. So whether you, and I don't want to say label, but whether you identify them as a customer, as a client, as a mentor, as a protege, as a possible business partner, as an affiliate, once you've created that profile for them, then that will gauge, how frequently you should connect with them, the type of messaging that you're going to be giving or interacting or sharing, and then along with the resources, as well as even the longevity of that particular relationship. I think that's very critical, and it has to go a little bit further than just personal and professional. Okay. The other thing is that you want to inform. So inform them about another upcoming conference or event. Inform them of different activities that might be of interest to them in their locale, whether it's meetups, online groups, alumni associations, different types of ways of networking, connecting with people within your industry. Inform them of even just the books that you're reading, the webinars that you're taking, and other information. And then the next one or the next piece is inquire, where you're doing the opposite. So you're asking about resources, about information. You can ask for a lead or ask for a recommendation or a referral. It's just another touch point to connect and be able to share resources and information. And then last but not least is invite. We actually play the host or the hostess, and if it's applicable, invite this person to a one-on-one, to a coffee, to another networking conference, event, or meeting. And this doesn't have to be physical. This can also be online as well. the different types of technologies and ways of connecting virtually. And you're just developing the relationship, getting to know the person better, seeing how you can work together and how you can support one another. So yes, this is my Fantastic Four for follow-up, which is induct, inform, inquire, and invite. And what I've learned is that you can do all four. You can switch it around and maybe invite first and then induct, inform, or inquire, or you can just pick one out of it. But at least this will be a starting point for you to reach out or to have a touch point with whomever you meet at these events. So the next slide is question and answer. I'm open to any questions that you might have. We have just about a little bit less than 20 minutes, and Sarah, I'm free.
Okay. All right, great. So thank you, Chi-Chi, and please everyone take a moment to ask anything you would like. I'm curious, Chi-Chi, when you're shopping around at conferences, and many of them can be quite costly, what are some markers or signifiers of conferences that are going to offer great networking? Is it something about their structure or something in the advertisement that catches your eye?
Well, for me, like I said before, it's the agenda. If the conference has an agenda where you can read it and be able to pinpoint different events or even different speakers or information that you find will be useful, then you definitely want to attend that conference. Sometimes they'll have early bird specials, so if you're able to pay ahead of time and save money, that's another great way of being resourceful. The other thing is, on the flip side of that, some organizations, they will have like group packages. So if it's something where it's sponsored by your company, perhaps your company could save money if they have more than 3 or 4 people that go to this particular conference for the ticket price. Or if you are a solopreneur like myself, and there's an event that you would like to attend, if you can gather some of your other friends and colleagues, then perhaps there is a reduced fee for everyone registering.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Great. Well, at this time, let's jump to the questions that were sent in. Oh, I apologize. We did just get a question in. What are some of your favorite examples of engaging questions beyond why did you decide to attend this conference?
Okay, it's a great question. Thank you. So some of the things you can ask are who did you come to the conference with? So that will kind of gauge, if they came as a group, of course, if they go solo. And it's another way to get more introductions. One of the things that I mentioned about extrovert versus introvert, natural networker, if someone has come with a group of people or knows people that are already at the conference, that's another way to connect. Another question is, what do you like or what do you enjoy about your work? So you're not actually asking where do you work or what's your position in your title, but more along the lines of what are you doing at work or how do you add value to your company or your organization, which can definitely spin off a lot of conversation and touch points where, you are learning more about the person and trying to find commonalities. Another thing, and I mentioned this before, in the inquire piece for networking follow-up, what books or ebooks or publications are you reading? What type of blogs are you following? I'm a Pinterest junkie. So I love going on Pinterest, and they do well with, I like to pin different types of business resources, ideas for marketing, ideas for even just how to structure your business when it comes to financing, when it comes to bookkeeping, accounting, branding, and things of that nature. So even asking, how do you stay up to date with technology? What type of books are you reading? What type of what type of blogs are you following? Who are some of the influencers that you value in your career and academic or professional advancement? I think these are great questions because it doesn't, it's kind of like business and social. It plays both roles, and it's not so, how do I say that? It's not so invasive, and it's a little bit more lighthearted, and it's more of an icebreaker. So I would go with those types of questions.
Okay. And what happens if you encounter someone who is not a sophisticated networker and you're really the one moving the conversation forward?
And that's happened a couple of times. And of course you don't want to be disrespectful and you don't want to be rude. And when you encounter someone that may seem to be overselling, may seem to be not listening, not paying attention, and self-interested, you can either choose to end the conversation if you cannot tolerate it. and that's simply just sticking your hand out and saying, it was very nice meeting you, exchange business cards if you like, and just walk away. But you don't want to say, I'm leaving, and then they see you 5 minutes later, okay? The other thing is that you can change the conversation and talk about something that you think would interest both of you or the group if you're in a group setting. So if someone might be, talking about something that they want to sell, whether it's a book, it's a program, it's some type of training, or tickets for another conference of some sort. You can always switch it around and say, and you can always talk about the weather. You could talk about sports, or you can talk about something that relates to what's going on presently at that conference, whether it's the keynote speaker, whether it's a particular workshop, pulling out that app and looking at the agenda and saying, oh, are any of you going to this particular workshop? I'm interested in going to this workshop because I want to hear this person speak, or because I want to learn more about X, Y, Z. So there are ways that you can do it where you're not being disrespectful and rude and literally shutting the person down, but you're also making it very clear that maybe their attitude or their behavior is not as professional as it should be.
All right. And what are the graceful ways in which you can ask someone, what do you do? Especially, we have someone here who pointed out if you're less experienced and you're running into folks who are clearly more senior than you are, and you want to ask what they do without just seeming intrusive and like you want something from them.
Okay, that's a great question. And I could understand the uncomfortableness. Is that a word? Uncomfortableness of that. The first thing you could do is you can ask to exchange business cards. Like, oh, here's my business card. Can I please have yours? And hopefully they will have an extra business card, and you're able to see where they work and their position or title. If they don't have a business card and you're not able to exchange, then what you can say is you can put it back on yourself. Well, hi, my name is Chichi Okizi. I'm owner and producer of Simple Networking, and I'm here at this conference because I want to learn more about branding. How about yourself? So hopefully when you extend that, the person will take your cue and say, where they work, their position and title, and their purpose for being at the event.
Okay. All right, great. So for a student who is about to go, and I think we have some graduate students on the line. So when you're about to go to a large event and you know that there are potential employers there, what's your advice for approaching those employers? And if you know folks are going to be there before that event, do you recommend reaching out to them beforehand to set up time to speak at the event or conference?
Okay. We'll start with the first question, especially for students. If you have business cards, definitely print out business cards. That I find to be very useful as a way of following up, and also shows professionalism. The other thing is that, as I mentioned for, which was it? I want to say for the speaker or the sponsor, you want to have a value pitch of some sort, or not so much an interest pitch, but you want to have a value pitch, which is slightly different from your elevator pitch, where when you're talking to your potential employer or someone who can interview you and move you along that process is that you want to highlight how you add value, any types of awards, certifications, experiences, internships, or jobs that make you a great candidate for your desired position. The other thing is you definitely want to have your resumes with you, but you don't necessarily have to give them out. You should have both. Of course, you'll have both electronic and printed resumes as well, but it's always good to have business cards and then forward your resumes to these people, because then they can forward it along. If they're not able to help you, they can move it along to whoever needs it. But what I do recommend is when you're talking to these potential employers or interviewers, that you have your value pitch, and that also you're asking them questions as well. You're asking them questions about the organization and about how you would fit in and be successful in that position, because it is all about growth. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because when I was talking to students, undergrad students at the business school, the same question came up, and one of the things that I said was, pretend like you've already gotten or you've already received the job, okay? And it's not necessarily you being cocky, but pretend like you already have the position. If you already have the position, of course your questions are going to be different if you're just applying for the position. And I think that the questions that you ask when you already have the position will be a great branding mechanism and really differentiate you from the other candidates, because now you're asking questions that relate to, I'm invested in this company and I want to see it grow. I want to be able to develop and add value, and how am I able to do that? Off of, how much am I going to get paid? What does a daily work day look like? What are my benefits and things of that nature? In the type sense of connecting with the employers or the interviewers before, I think that's at your own discretion. If you feel like that will move you along and make you a better candidate, then definitely go for it. Sometimes it's best to just talk with them and see even if there is a position available, if that company is right for you, because even though they have information on the website and on social media and things like that, it still doesn't give a full or robust view of the organization, or certain things that can easily be left out. So it's always great to talk to someone, especially if it's updated information and things of that nature. But in the case of connecting ahead of time, I would, you can do that at your own discretion. If you think that will make you more competitive and will give you an advantage, then definitely go for it.
All right. And then be very specific in your ask with that person when you are following up, and you want to directly ask them to make an introduction or let them know that you're applying to a job at their company. What are your tips there for making that email, again, not sound too direct, but also to the point?
Yeah, it can be challenging. You don't want to be unreasonable in your requests. So you definitely have to gauge it. And that was the other thing that I said. Make it be available for business and make it easy for the person to work with you. So if you are going to ask for a specific introduction to a particular person or to have your resume or information pushed forward, then provide your resume, provide your information, provide your contact, direct contact information, whether it's a cell phone number, whether it's an email. Make sure that your information is up to date, and even put in the best way to be contacted and even the days or the times of the week to be contacted if you're going to ask for something like that.
Okay. All right, great. So I know we have 5 minutes left. Would you like to choose? Chi kindly responded to all of the questions sent in advance by writing out responses. So I will be sending those to you all to review along with her presentation deck. But Chi, would you like to take one of those questions right now and review them before we close out?
Sure. Not a problem. Let's see, which one should I choose?
Totally up to you. Whatever.
Let's see. I think we've answered some of them. Okay, I'll go with this one. What are the biggest mistakes people make? Okay, so I have written here, not bringing enough business cards, not having a concise elevator pitch, not listening or paying attention, not following up after the event, and we have over, and it's overselling, over marketing, over promoting, over talking, etc. So these are some of the mistakes that people make at networking events, especially the business card. I know that some people want to go green and they have certain apps that you can bump on your phone and things of that nature. But what I suggest is, like, even the night before, the week before, just make sure that you have enough business cards with you. And then also take a picture of your business card and keep it in your phone as well. And if you're at an event and you realize that you're down to one card, then keep that card, but have people take pictures of your card with their phone. Of course, if they have their phone and if the battery is charged and everything, then have them take pictures of that business card if you're running out. And then also you have a backup image of your card on your phone. So if you're okay with, just emailing your business card to that person from your phone, you can do that as well. I know some people may be sensitive about giving out their cell phone numbers, which I completely understand. But that, I think, is one of the biggest problems is not having enough business cards, because, first of all, business card it's a part of your physical image. It's a way that people can remember you, and it also just shows professionalism. So that's my question. That's the question that I'll answer for today.
All right, perfect. That's a great way to close it out. I think we are just all a little bit nervous about just walking up to someone and breaking in the circle. That's always something we get questions about, how to start that conversation and manage it gracefully. So we appreciate your advice, Chi-Chi, and I'll move forward to, I believe, your last piece of advice. Just do it.
Yes, everybody loves quotes, so I thought I'd add this quote in from Nike. Just do it. I'm excited to be able to co-host the webinar with you, Sarah. And with it being the new year, everything is fresh, everything is new. We want to be focused, and we have a plan now. We have a way to get from point A to point B, and to be successful. So what I highly recommend is just do it. Don't procrastinate. Don't think that you don't have the character, or you don't have the the stamina, or you just don't have the to do it. You have the worksheets, you have the question and answers, and I've definitely given the presentation. So and feel free to reach out to me as well with any additional questions or comments. But definitely want you to move forward and be successful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Chi-Chi, and feel free to follow up with Chi-Chi and let her know what an anecdote that happens at a conference you attend this spring. And before you do go to one of those conferences, after reviewing this presentation again, I also encourage you to go on Emory Connects, the online career community exclusively offered to Emory alumni and students to build their professional network. LinkedIn is obviously something you should be using before you go to a conference and you want to check out who else is attending. But I also encourage you to both share on Emory Connects that you're about to attend a conference, see if anyone else is going, and also potentially look for alumni in your city who might be attending and message them. So it's a great platform to use in conjunction with LinkedIn. And I will also send out an article that I just came across that I think is very helpful about what your LinkedIn profile should look like in 2018. So I'll send that along in this follow-up email, since I do think the LinkedIn profile goes along with prepping for a conference. And stay tuned for more webinars. We have many coming up this winter and spring about different topics related to professional development. And if you have an idea for a future session, please let me know. Chi-Chi, thank you again for your time. Are you going to any Emory alumni events in Atlanta anytime soon that you'd like to share with attendees?
Yes, I am actually. I'm going to a night out at Oxford in Midtown,
Yes.
and hopefully I'll be able to make it to the Emory Entrepreneurs Network Awards ceremony next Wednesday. So looking forward to that. And then I have my interest meeting. So if you are in the Atlanta area and would love to attend the Alumni and Women of Emory, we have our interest meeting coming up the 21st or the 22nd on Monday. So it'll be a busy calendar. But before we end, I definitely wanted to give a shout out to my sister, who is also an Emory alum. We're both, we made each other legacy, and she graduated from the college in '99. And also to my co-chair, Nancy Thompson from AWE.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for everything you do for the Emory community, Chi-Chi. And we look forward to seeing you all soon, if not at an in-person event, over a webinar. So thank you, everyone. Stay warm and have a good day.